Hi, I'm Maisie Stiles, and I'm going to be the mediator for the English only versus bilingual education video debate.
Hi, I'm Katie Dutroux.
I'm Julia Zindel.
I'm Tyler Smith.
And we're for bilingual education.
Hi, I'm Lisa Carano.
I'm Kaylee Bazofsky.
And we're for English only education. The English only versus bilingual debate is a controversial debate across America's school districts. The English only side is in favor of adopting strictly and English only within the classroom. Students coming from different countries and cultures will adopt English as their new native language, creating a more unified classroom and nation. The bilingual side is in favor of integrating and appreciating the students' native culture into the English language and American culture. Today, both sides will present their opening statements for why they are in favor of their side. In addition, both sides will state the pros and cons of each side, as well as cross-examine each other through questions and answers. Lastly, the debate will all wrap up with each side's closing statements after hearing the opposing side's thoughts and persuasions. Now we will begin with the opening statements.
English-only education is cheaper. Schools will save money on hiring specialized bilingual teachers, as well as saving money on bilingual materials like textbooks and workbooks.
Next, when students are in an English-only classroom, they are able to learn faster and it raises their confidence. Since English is everyone's first language in the classroom, the students will be able to excel in any subject they are learning.
Lastly, immigrants are encouraged to adopt English as their new native language, and because it is the only language spoken in the classroom.
Bilingual education creates an opportunity for early diversity. It helps students learning a new language make an easy transition to begin learning math, science, and other subjects in English. Students begin receiving instruction in their native language and eventually become weaned off it and begin to learn entirely in English.
It also provides children with many future opportunities that they may have not had with only knowing one language. Research has shown that non-English speaking students who take advantage of these programs effectively learn how to write and speak English.
Lastly, a bilingual education provides two languages to students simultaneously. Bilingual education programs intend to assist English and non-English speaking students to speak and write in a second language.
English only side, what do you believe the pros are to English only education?
English only is much cheaper than bilingual education. School districts will save money on hiring specialized teachers, specialized textbooks and materials in both languages, and other fundings from outside resources.
Immigrants are encouraged to adopt English as their new and native language, creating a more unified classroom and school district where everyone can effectively communicate using the same language.
Also, English only will abolish the use of translation services, as well as students will learn faster by only focusing on one language, and it will raise their confidence in speaking that language.
Bilingual education side, what do you believe the cons are to English only education?
English-only education is a deficit-based model that focuses on students' lack of ability to speak English as opposed to highlighting students' ability to speak their native language.
It also restricts freedom of speech because if the students aren't comfortable with English yet, they'll be shy and not speak as much as they normally would.
We as a group also believe that the lack of bilingual education in a school prevents students' involvement in the local culture.
It also decreased participation from students with lower English skills.
Bilingual education side, what do you believe the pros are to bilingual education?
Bilingual education creates an opportunity for children to become involved in early diversity. Also, learning a second language allows children with future opportunities.
Bilingual education also improves the working memory because they are challenged to learn twice as much as an English-only learner. It also boosts brain development in students, giving them an advantage in schooling.
Bilingual education also stimulates concentration and student involvement.
English only side, what do you believe the cons are to bilingual education?
Education in a second language can be inconsistent. Learning specific content can be extremely difficult, especially when trying to use two different languages consistently. Bilingual education costs a lot of money and it is difficult to keep up with.
Bilingual education can shift a student's focus back and forth, confusing them of the two languages, and there may be lack of qualified teachers and assistants.
English only side, what is your first question for the bilingual education side?
Where are schools going to get the funding for implementing bilingual education in their district?
While states and school districts bear the responsibility of serving English language learners, the federal government pitches in a little more than $700 million, which has taken on a growing role in the education of English language learners. Therefore, the state gives funds to a school if they decide they will teach bilingual education. Nothing comes out of the school's pocket. This way, the school will still acquire all of the materials they need.
Although you say that money will not come out of the school's pocket, in our opinion, money and funding should be going towards other areas that benefit the school as a whole, not just one child individually.
Okay, next question, English only.
Through our research, we discovered that school districts have been hiring unqualified teachers and assistants. How do you justify this action?
From what we've learned, bilingual education is mostly funded by the state. With this being said, school districts around the country will utilize this money by providing our teachers with extensive and efficient education programs to inform them how to best educate their dual language students. Teachers who may not have had as much training or experience with bilingual students will be provided with aides and assistants in the classroom in order for the teacher to have extra help and the students to have someone to communicate with who will advocate for their needs. Our greatest hope is that we allow them to learn how to educate their dual language students to the best of their ability.
Although this training may be beneficial in the long run, it is going to take too much time and money to make it close to a perfect system. In the meantime, while teachers are learning and training, students are being affected negatively.
Next question.
How do teachers who teach different languages keep learning consistent for the students?
The teachers will use the same procedures and methods for each subject. The teacher will keep it consistent so the student will not get confused. For example, if the student learns well with visuals, the teacher will keep using visuals for the student. The teachers have to make the learning hands-on rather than textbook work. The teacher will be trained to reflect after each lesson to recognize what works well for the student and what does not. The teacher will take all these things into consideration when designing the next lesson. The main goal is to provide a consistent education that fits best for each student.
Although these methods and procedures are good, teachers must keep the language consistent constantly in order for it to be effective. This is only going to be confusing and unlikely to be a flawless system.
Any more questions? Bilingual education, what are your questions for the English only side?
Our first question is, what would you propose the solution would be if a student who does not speak English just moved into a school district that does not offer bilingual education?
Students who do not speak English should get outside help, like going to a tutor to receive the bilingual education they may need. It should not be the school district's responsibility to accommodate all of their curriculum for one child. By having the student receive outside help and translation services, a more unified classroom will be created. This will as well make the students more confident with their new outside skills to bring into the classroom and strive to make friends and relationships with these skills.
We understand that by receiving language assistance outside the classroom will put ELL learners at an equal advantage, but we find it necessary to consider the students whose families may not have the money to receive English tutors outside of the classroom, and our school district would like to be able to provide them with the accommodations they need while in school.
Next question, bilingual education.
Our second question is, how do you justify the lack of student engagement when a student cannot understand the second language?
In our opinion, there will be no lack of student engagement through English-only education. If the student receives outside assistance in learning the English language, then the classroom will be an additional practice of these skills. Teachers will teach and treat these students just as they would any other student, keeping them engaged and focused at all times. Teachers may use accommodations and modifications with these students like they would with any other lower-level learning student. However, no focus or lack of engagement will ever be lost.
We appreciate your virtue for treating all students with the same respect and encouragement no matter what. But we believe that if their native language is not incorporated, the ELL student will just sit there in confusion the whole time. This will put them at a disadvantage in schooling.
The next question.
Our third question is, what is your perspective on the elimination of culture and diversity through English-only programs?
English only does not eliminate any culture or diversity. It welcomes students into a new culture, only strengthening their knowledge and perceptions of the world. It creates a sense of unity and culture within the classroom when everyone speaks the same language. It's not eliminating the students' native language, it's adapting them to an additional culture.
I definitely understand where you're coming from. However, some students that may enter the classroom may not be able to speak any English at all. Many schools cannot deny students the right to enter a classroom. If these students do not get the appropriate measures needed, they will drastically fall behind in the curriculum.
Any more questions?
No.
And now the closing statements for the English-only education versus bilingual education video debate. English-only side, what are your closing statements?
To justify the point of a school district not having bilingual support, students should get outside help, like going to a tutor to receive the bilingual education they need. This will maintain the unity of not only the school district, but the nation as a whole. Overall, English only is not eliminating different cultures and diversities. It is creating and adapting students to additional culture as everyone will speak the same language in the classroom. English only welcomes students to a new culture.
In addition, school districts have little funding, so eliminating bilingual education will help schools fund different programs. Taxpayers should not have to go out of their way to pay for bilingual education when the majority of students do not need this support. We believe that the school district's funding should go towards different areas other than bilingual education. English-only education will allow the students and teachers to be positively affected because they will not have to focus on teaching other languages.
In conclusion, English-only education increases the students' confidence, and they will learn faster because they are only focused on their new language, not retrieving information from their past language. Students will have a sense of unity in the classroom, which will allow students to express themselves and feel more confident. Students will not have to focus on learning another language, which will help students learn faster.
Bilingual education, what are your closing points of the discussion?
From the research we conducted as a group, we found that bilingual education gives a greater opportunity for future success to each individual that can comprehend one or more languages. With this being said, bilingual education will not only help students in the classroom succeed during their academic years as a student, but also when it comes to finding a job. For example, as an educator, one is much more likely to get hired when they know more than one language. The more one knows, the better.
Does anybody have anything to contribute to the end of this conversation?
I would just like to say that although we remain on the English side, we feel that the bilingual side presented factual and evidence-based arguments that made this debate more compelling and persuasive. From their evidence, we learned that bilingual education provides more opportunities not only for the ELL student, but for the other students learning around them. In addition, we learned that bilingual education creates an opportunity for children to become involved early in diversity in their lives, this benefits them for the future. Lastly, by teaching with two languages stimulates students' concentration and brain development, which we had previously opposed.
Anybody else? Yes.
On behalf of the Bilingual Education Group, although we are for bilingual education and remain, the English-only side gave a good argument. We learned that it is much cheaper, so school districts will save money on hiring specialized teachers, textbooks, and material from outside resources. An English-only school will also create a more unified classroom where everyone can effectively communicate using the same language. Lastly, with only having to learn one language at a time, the students will learn faster and it will raise their confidence in speaking that language.
Bilingual education, what are your closing points of the discussion?
From the research we conducted as a group, we found that bilingual education gives a greater opportunity for future success to each individual that can comprehend one or more languages. With this being said, bilingual education will not only help students in the classroom succeed during their academic years as a student, but also when it comes to finding a job. For example, as an educator, one is much more likely to get hired when they know more than one language. The more one knows, the better.
The English-only versus bilingual debate presents not only many opinions and ideas, but factual-based evidence to support each side. The English-only side presented ideas that centered around the idea of cost efficiency, school unity, and education and consistency. By having English-only school districts will save money on not hiring specialized staff, as well as purchasing extra material in dual languages, all for one student. In addition, by having everyone speak the same language in the school unites into a better community, enhancing students' culture, not eliminating their own native culture at all. With English only, students as well as teachers can focus on one language only and keeping all of the other important learning aspects of their classroom the main focus. If students try to learn two separate languages constantly, they are going to not only confuse themselves, but they are never going to excel in either language, only remain average by trying to learn both. On the other hand, the bilingual education side presented ideas that centered around the ideas of creating opportunity for diversity, future opportunities, and brain development. Not only the ELL student, but the other students in the classroom will be more culturally aware and diverse by being surrounded by multiple languages and cultures. With this situation, everyone will benefit. In addition, bilingual side expressed that by students being surrounded by multiple languages and being bilingual, it will create more job opportunities in the future of this changing nation. Jobs like doctors, police officers, and soldiers need to have the benefit of being able to communicate with as many people they interact with. All in all, both sides today have presented very detailed and evidence-based ideas about their views on this debate.